Hi, more and more often I hear questions about how America will live after the military operation in Ukraine, how America will live, which led sanctions against Russia, and what will happen in the future with American brands, because it's all personal will affect every citizen of our country, every American. After the war in Ukraine and Donbas, after the completion of the special operation on demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, a world war will not begin, since the United States is guaranteed to die in this war. The presence of nuclear weapons in Russia excludes a war of the collective West against Russia, since in this case Russia will hit the decision-making centers, that is, on the territory of the United States, as Vladimir Putin said in advance, proposing a revision of the military doctrine. The development of the situation, which is most likely, is that the United States will fight with Russia, first to the last Bandera, then the Pole, then the Baltic states. For example, according to Fedorov, after the war in Ukraine, the special operation may continue in the Baltic states and other countries, that America will be ready to throw into a blazing bonfire to burn Russia. After the special operation in Ukraine, Poland may be drawn into the conflict. Brands that have left Russia, a demarche, rather, of psychological pressure, increasing the discontent of the population. Well, really, will Russia weaken without McDonald's, iPhones or foreign clothes? Of course not. But what is really important, and urgently subject to nationalization, are mining enterprises, heavy industry, agriculture and food industry and other vital sectors of the economy. The tough and large-scale sanctions prepared by the West were prepared not just in case, but to apply them. Apply in any case for any reason. Moreover, there is always a reason at hand. Ukraine and LDNR. Our intelligence and analysts not only get information from the internet and learned about it in advance. Why strangle Russia so abruptly? I will say this below, so as not to disturb the smoothness of the presentation. In the light of these events, the Russian leadership began to fuss. Hence the active negotiations, which, it seems, resulted in ultimatums from the West. I had to go to extreme measures. Russia began to rattle weapons for show. It was called exercises, but who needs it, understood. That's why the West so confidently predicted the current situation. They knew the true reasons for what was happening. Europe might have been convinced by this rattling, but the United States was not convinced. They are far away, and any mess in Europe is only to their advantage. Let's remember how rich and successful the United States came out of the Second World War. And then Putin went to the most extreme. He piled on Ukraine. What does Ukraine have to do with it? Well, she was just unlucky. Alas, she is only a bargaining chip in the global confrontation. For the United States, Ukraine is always only an excuse, not a reason. Well, there is also a territory from which you can threaten Russia. This exhausts its functionality for the USA. The EU, of course, is a little more concerned about the state of affairs in Ukraine. It's close by, but the EU does not consider Ukraine as an equal partner either. Russia would be ready to cooperate with Ukraine in full, but lost. This is the mildest expression in this case, the information war, and got a fierce enemy. Moreover, objectively, from scratch. Come on, just an enemy. This is a former friend with whom we had the closest and richest economic ties. Their rupture is a severe blow to the economies of both countries. It was a severe knockdown, but Russia began to slowly recover, so we need to finish. Now, as far as I understand, Putin hopes to bend Ukraine under Russia, to demonstrate by its example the determination to go to the end, and with this trump card to bargain with the West about further coexistence. At the same time, Ukraine will again serve as a bargaining chip. After the escalation of the Russian Ukrainian conflict, the United States and its Western allies increased economic and military assistance to Kiev and strengthened sanctions against Russia. Not only did they not use their influence as a major power to steer countries towards peace and encourage negotiations, but instead, as if by chance, they contributed to the indefinite prolongation of the crisis. The reason is that the United States hopes to repeat the past experience of making money at the expense of a military conflict by doing nothing, benefit from someone else's conflict, maximize its strategic and economic interests, and continue to maintain its own hegemony. First, with the help of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, the United States can continue to manipulate NATO, keep Europe under control, deplete Russia's geostrategic resources and strengthen global hegemony. Secondly, with the help of the crisis between Russia and Ukraine, the United States can maximize the interests of its military industrial complex and further expand military hegemony. Thirdly, due to tough anti-Russian sanctions, the strong position of the dollar will be further strengthened, as well as the American financial hegemony. After the United States became a financial empire, they devoted themselves to the hidden financial colonial expansion of the dollar as a world trade settlement and reserve currency, and then moved to control the economies of various countries to preserve global financial hegemony. Despite the problem of the dollarization, since the dollar is the currency for global payments, its international influence is difficult to neutralize in a short period of time, and Washington will continue to resort to the hegemony of its own currency to suppress other countries. And now let's move on to the current situation. China is actively pushing its yuan into the category of full-fledged and sought after reserve currencies. Accordingly, it is crowding other reserve currencies, primarily the dollar and the euro. This is the main fault of China. Russia doesn't have the guts to push the ruble, but it has recently been getting rid of dollar dependence more and more actively and supports China, first of all, with military might. Why not cut the hamstrings of Russia, and then not to deal closely with China? If someone suddenly does not know why the US and the EU are ready for any crimes to maintain the status of their currencies, ask, I will unsubscribe in the comments and or give links. This is a big topic, not enough for one post. We will discuss all this together with you. Please write to the channel, support me with your like and subscription. This will be the best thanks for the material that I provide.